Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, the Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has been the place to shop for your industrial needs for over 20 years. Carrying the tools you need to get the job done from the brands you can trust, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has you covered. Brands like Milwaukee Tool, established in 1924 and on display in our Milwaukee Red Zone, the largest red zone in Winnipeg. With construction workers and tradespeople in mind, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools is your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. So come on down to our Winnipeg store location today, located on 1557 King Edward Street in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And welcome into not episode 20 of the MFHL podcast, but rather episode 21 here, as it's a Friday night. Thank you to everyone that is tuning into this one for doing so. I'm your host, Graham, the gshow Forsyth. We're brought to you by Terrico Goaltenders, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, and Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia. Thank you to them for continuing to support our coverage of the best female hockey league in the province, which finally crowned a champion last weekend, and that champion ended up being the Eastman Selects, as we pull up our championship graphic featuring their goal scorers from that Game 5 victory right there on the right-hand side, and Danielle Hepner and golden goal scorer and Sophia Heidinger to send Eastman through to the West Regional Series, where they'll be taking on the Saskatoon Stars. But what a final we were treated to this year in the MFHL. Honestly, the most entertaining final that I've been able to witness in this league throughout my years of covering it. And yeah, I mean, the past few finals, to be honest with you, even though the victors were great teams, you know, back-to-back champions in the Winnipeg Ice, and then the year before they start off with their first championship out of their 2 years back in 2021-2022. It's the Westman Wildcats who end up sweeping the Winnipeg Ice, right? So I think that was refreshing in a big way to see the final go the distance, and it was a magical ride that the Winnipeg Avros went on that they couldn't quite finish off. A magical run for Adriana Almeida as well, as she ends up being named playoff MVP, even though her team comes away with that loss, right? In the end, she was that good. And yeah, it's just that final game. We'll get into the key moments in just a moment, the goals here in this episode, but yeah, it could have gone either way in that final game for one of these teams to move through, either the Avros and the Selects, and it just happened to be the Eastman Selects who had just a bit more than the Winnipeg Avros did this season in the championship series. But as for Adriana Almeida, as mentioned, she ends up winning finals MVP, and these were her statistics in the final series. Credit to Scott Stroh of Ice Wave Media for making this graphic, but yeah, sensational from the 2026 graduate, as she'll be graduating next year with a good chunk of that Avros squad. But yeah, Adriana was fantastic. As for the regular season award winners, Rio Pierre, what a season for her, as she ends up bringing home top scorer, top forward, and MVP. Most sportsmanlike player goes to Brianne Windross, as the Interlake Lightning captain played with so much class throughout her career and ends up being rewarded with a prestigious award this season, most sportsmanlike player. As for top defense and top goalie, as well as rookie of the year, well, those all belong to the 2025 champion Eastman Selects. Zebeda Rigaud takes home top defense, and Isabelle Labossiere, not only top goalie, but rookie of the year. And, I'm pretty proud in a way that I was able to call those awards right heading into the playoffs. All of those players that end up being named in the awards, bringing home those awards, very deserving. Congratulations to the best of the MFHL this season in making a huge impact on their teams and being rewarded with what ended up being the awards they end up winning. As for the All-Star teams, those were also announced. The first All-Star team consists of Veda Rigaud, Isabelle Labossiere, Avery Lazarenko, Ivy Perkins, Rio Pierre, and Izzy Mann. Second All-Star team, loaded with Avros talent, as Captain Evie West named to that squad. Adeline Nolgren, huge part of the Avros top line this season, named to that second All-Star team, as well as playoff MVP Adriana Almeida. Callie Hillhorst and Reese Schutte from the Westman Selects end up making the second All-Star team as well, and then Delaney Rigaud of the Rigaud twins ends up rounding out that second All-Star team list. So yeah, congratulations to all 10 of those players on being named to this year's All-Star teams. In terms of, well, were there any snubs? I mean, if Addison Tomes ends up playing a full season, there's a very good chance that she's on one of these teams. She was fantastic throughout this year and in the playoffs, coming back from injury and battling an illness, heading into, well, that game 3 ends up being pulled and then doesn't play in game 4 and then comes back with a huge performance in that game 5 victory, right? But in terms of other players that could have ended up making it, I think the MFHL, they got it right, to be honest with you. Izzy Mann from Winnipeg Ice, their leading point getter. All the Westman Wildcats players on this list. Callie Hillhorst, of course, a really great defenseman and really made a huge impact again this season on her Westman Wildcats. Results that they had when they did have success. Callie was a huge part of that. But yeah, Reese Schutte and Ivy Perkin being named to All-Star teams. They were both top 5 in points. Rio Pierre, I feel like she was a lock for that first All-Star team, given the record-setting season that she ended up having and being the best player in this league this season outright. And yeah, I mean, players like Gabby Robbins, Sophie Wasowski, those could be players that we see on that list next year, as well as a player in Callie Lavalley. As all those rookies this year made huge impacts on their team. But for Robbins and Wasowski, even finishing top 10 in points wasn't quite enough for them to crack these teams this season. Cassie Carvalho, out of her and Delaney Rigaud, in terms of regular season games played, just taking a look at it. For Carvalho, she actually ended up having more points than Delaney Rigo this season, but Rigo, one of the top goal scorers in the league this year, and was a huge part of Eastman's championship success this season, so understandable why she ends up making it over Cassie Carvalho. And yeah, in terms of players who I think could have been on this list too, when we're taking a look just the teams in general, in terms of, well, should some second players have been on the first team this season? I think overall the league ends up getting it right. And for Avery Lazarenko to make it on this list, I think she was very deserving of first team All-Star as well, given that on her Winnipeg Ice squad this season, led all defense in points, and was one of the strongest two-way players at that position this season. So yeah, congratulations to all 10 of these players that end up being named to the first and second All-Star teams collectively this year in the MFHL. As taking a look at the points leaders and assist leaders, as well as goal leaders and goalie leaders here. First off, with the point and goalie leaders presented by Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs here in the province of Manitoba. Rio Pierre, no different in the postseason from the regular season, as the second-year superstar, not just an all-star, an absolute superstar in Rio Pierre, ends up finishing way ahead in the points leaderboards. In terms of goal leaders, Rio had 6 more than the next best, which was a 3-way tie between Sophia Heidinger, Delaney Rigo, and Avery Lazarenko. And then Rio also finishing with, well, the most assists there, as we can see, out of a group that was very close to each other, neck and neck in all of these, really. But yeah, just in terms of the Eastman Selects, on how they were able to go on a championship run, their depth a huge part of that, and we saw that come through at the top of the goal leaderboards, as Heidinger, Rigo, and Isabella Carey all throughout the lineup being top 5 in that category. Shan Scott Cook as well, showcasing her versatility out there as a player. Not only is she so reliable in her defensive zone and a great forechecker, but she is also able to feed her teammates and make them look good in the process with those 7 assists. Heidinger probably had the best playoff out of any Eastman Select player in the end, as we'll get into her golden goal in just a bit here. But yeah, finishes second in the whole playoffs in points. She was my pick for Eastman to end up winning playoff MVP, the player from there, but the league ends up going with Adriana Almeida. Anyways, even with the losses, yeah, even though she had 5 losses, this was a goaltender that, even looking back at that Winnipeg Ice series, really, I think the legend that was Adriana Almeida in this postseason started there, as she had back-to-back games in Game 4 and Game 5 against the rival in the Winnipeg Ice, where she ended up facing 40 shots in each of those games and only gave up, 3 goals throughout those 2 games, right? So she was absolutely phenomenal leading into the postseason, and her team needed her to step up big time to be able to carry them through to push this 1 to 5 games, and that's exactly what she did, as we saw the statistics from her final series in those 5 games, only allowing 6 goals against the Eastman Selects, and in fact shutting them out in back-to-back games, in game number 3 and in game number 4, to end up pushing the series all the way to a game 5 back in Niverville. And it took about over 150 minutes for the Selects to finally get one on Almeida, and even in the championship game, only gave up 2 goals on 49 shots against. So yeah, the future is bright for the Avers goaltender, and I think that she really left her mark and left a statement on the rest of the league heading into next year, that if you run into the Avros in the playoffs, well, you're going to have to go through a goaltender that can turn it on and lock in and perform at a level that I've never seen before from a goaltender in this league, to be honest with you. Out of all my time watching MFHL hockey, this was the single best performance that I've ever seen a goaltender put on. And Adriana Almeida has to be proud of that. Her family, I know, very proud of that, especially her mother. As I've had a chance to have many conversations with her across the season this year as it's gone along, mostly in the finals or in the playoffs, that is. But yeah, she's got to be proud. And this Avers team has to be proud, too, of how they were able to battle back in this year's final in what I thought was a series to remember, as it went the full 5 games, started on March 18th and went all the way until last Saturday, the final Saturday of March. And as we showed here, yeah, an instant classic. A final to remember, where in game number 5, let me tell you, in Niverville, Manitoba, it was absolutely bonkers. I haven't seen a barn that packed this season throughout the province, so shout out to all the fans that ended up making it there and ended up watching it and being in attendance for what was going to be history made either way, as the Avros were not only looking to come back and end up doing something that I'm not sure has honestly ever been done in the league, in this league, a team coming back down 2-0 in the finals and winning it. Ashley Van Aglen was on the brink of making history too. If the Avers were able to win, they would end up giving their head coach the first ever championship of a head coach that is female specifically. There's never been a female head coach that has hoisted the MFHL championship in this league. As for the Eastman Selects, they were looking to not choke away, which would have been a devastating choke of a series, up 2-0, dropped 2 games in a row, but had one more game to finish it off. Plenty of rest, as did the Avros, as it was 3 days off from Game 4 to Game 5, and playing in front of the home crowd, looking to bring home their second championship in program history. But what made this one, I think, even more special for the Eastman Selects in the end was that they ended up finishing off as champions in what was their greatest regular season in franchise history. This team has never had the first seed and has never had as many wins as they did this season, although, of course, the league added in games. But yeah, Eastman, a team that was building for this moment starting back, I guess 2 years ago, but really took that next step last year. And yeah, both teams really served up a finals and a final game to remember. We'll get to that soon here. First, we're going to hit a commercial break, and then we'll be back for not only a recap on the finals in that final Game 5 of that final series this year in the MFHL, but we're also going to preview tonight's Game 1 and the West Regional Series as a whole between the Manitoba champion in the Eastman Selects and the Saskatchewan champion, this year's hosts, in the Saskatoon Stars. You're watching MFHL coverage here on the MFHL podcast, the penultimate episode, season 2, episode 21, here on your home of MFHL hockey on G-Show Productions on gshow.ca. Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools in Brandon takes pride in selling the tools farmers and tradespeople rely on. Like our Winnipeg location, Brandon carries the same tools you know and love. From all the brands you can trust, all in one convenient place. And with unbeatable service, we'll make sure you get the right tools to get the job done. Make Canada Fasteners and Tools in Brandon, proud to serve Brandon's industrial needs since 2018. Stop on by today at 358 Park Avenue East. And welcome back to the MFHL podcast, episode 21, season 2 here on this Friday night. Brought to you by Terrico, McKenna Fasteners and Tools, Goaltenders and Can Central Sports Cards, and memorabilia. Tonight's the night where the best of the West face off against each other. The Saskatoon Stars ended up rolling through the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League playoffs, getting by the Battleford Sharks to become league champions in Game 3 of the best-of-3 series, as Saskatoon beat them handily in both of their games. As for Eastman, of course, a different story. Up 2-0 in their series, had to go all the way to Game 5, as, it was much closer defensive battle in that series between the Selects and the Avros. It starts tonight, 8:30 p.m. Manitoba time, 9:30 p.m. Saskatchewan time. Wish we were covering it, MFHL fans, but we're plenty busy over here in Manitoba. Our hope for next year is, of course, to carry all the games for the West Regionals, which will be hosted by the Manitoba winner next season. As for who that'll be, well, that's next season. Before we get into just the analysis and preview of the West Regionals for this season and who we think is going to take it home, well, who I think is going to take it home, we got to finish off by recapping the Eastman Selects Championship run and really what was, I think, the most entertaining series of hockey that I've had a chance to be a part of. Just the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of this series, the emotion that was put in it by both of these teams, really giving it their all, and you could see that come full circle in the final game of the MFHL season, Game 180. As for the Winnipeg Avros, of course, as mentioned, they were looking to win the championship outright for the first time in their franchise history. As for the Eastman Selects, they were looking to win their second championship in program history, finishing off their best season in regular season history, finishing as the 1 seed. That was the hope. As for the Avros, they were looking to play spoiler and do something that I'm not sure any team has done here in this league, which was make it 3 straight to claim a championship. And it was looking great for the Avros to start off this game as rookie Callie Lavalley, a goal in game number 4 as well as a 2-point night, ends up coming up huge for her team 10 seconds into the championship final in game 5.
As we're officially underway here, chance early on, Lavalley off, atones it in! The Avros open the score to 10 seconds, going off the clock! An unlucky break for Tomes!
And Callie Lavalley getting some great luck there. You gotta be good to be lucky, right? And Callie Lavalley was there, playing the angle perfectly off of Addison Tomes' pad and into the back of the net. As the Eastman goaltender, you could kind of see it early on. The nerves were there. She hadn't played in full game, of course, after being pulled due to an illness in game number 3, but she would bounce back really nicely, stopping all 33 of the next shots that came her way. And as for the Winnipeg Avros in this series and throughout these playoffs, this was a team that was getting outshot quite a bit, but in this game they were putting a lot of pressure and a lot of points to the game on the Eastman Selects and attacking very well against that Select squad. Eastman gave Winnipeg everything they could handle in that first period of game number 5, out shooting them 13-6. Shots in the second period were 18-11, and Eastman just couldn't find a way to beat Adriana Almeida. The team in front of her was committed to blocking shots and really making it difficult for Eastman to break through into the high danger scoring areas. And as for a player in Danielle Hepner, who had plenty of opportunities in this series but continued to be stifled game in and game out against Adriana Almeida in those finals. She hadn't scored a goal since the first game of the semifinals series, and after all the opportunities that number 19 had in game number 5, she'd finally cash in and do this to draw the game even.
Eastman still controls. 9 seconds remain to Hepner. Left face-off circle. 3 seconds. Hepner shot, scores! She's been firing and firing and firing away that time.
And Hepner taking advantage of some open space in the Avro zone there, going into the middle of the ice, the high slot to unload that shot, changing her angle a bit as she had taken almost all of her shots, it seemed like, from that left face-off circle, received the puck at the bottom of that left face-off circle, circled up, found that open space to give Eastman, which was their first goal at that point, in over 150 minutes, exactly what they needed to give themselves hope to, come back in that game and be able to claim that second championship in franchise history. Both of these teams, you could see it, they could sense it, they could feel a championship coming their way. They continued to work against each other in that third period, which went scoreless, and it was the Avs that actually held most of the shots. Game needed overtime, scoreless after the first overtime. In fact, this game went so late, as it was a 3-hour stream, that I went outside to get some air, and they actually locked the front doors. So that's how late this game had gone, and was wondering how long the second overtime would go. Both of these teams had grade A chances in that first overtime as well as in that third period, but couldn't find a way to bury, and we couldn't find a winner up until the first 20 seconds or so of that double overtime, where Eastman's pressure would be a bit too much for the Avs to handle in the end, where number 16 in Sophia Heidinger, in my opinion, Eastman's best player in this final series and throughout these playoffs, would finish off, which I think was one of her greatest games in Eastman Selects history, with that jersey that she wore for the past few years. The U of M commit ended up having the primary assist on the Danielle Hepner game-tying goal, and would be only fitting for how hard Sophia worked in this final game and throughout her MFHL career to finish off with the championship clinching goal.
Now held in at the point by Normando. Sent down low to Heidinger. Backhand pass. Scott Cook trying to find it. Rat scores! It's immortality for number 16 and Heidinger and the Eastman Selects. They're MFHL champions for a second time in their U18 program's history. As another banner will be hung here in Niverville, Manitoba. It's heartbreak for Adriana Almeida and this Winnipeg Avros side. Jubilation for this Eastman Select side as they finish.
And said it on the broadcast, jubilation for the Eastman Selects. That moment for them, what a moment that was to be there. And yeah, getting to see a view of the losing side and how they felt as well, as Almeida gave it her absolute all, the Avros gave it their absolute all, but ended up not being enough to take down, which was the best team in the MFHL this season. The Eastman Selects finished with a 9-2 record in the postseason. They were close to being perfect, but the Avros wouldn't let that happen. It got scary for Eastman as it went into a Game 5 after they were up 2-0 in this series. But a team that cruised to the finals, a team that once again scoring by committee, that coming through, so many weapons that can beat you. And yeah, this series ended up being a defensive battle. The Avros really locked in. Their goaltender, of course, and Almeida really locked in. And yeah, for Game 3 and Game number 4, the Avros relied on their goaltending, got huge stops in their defensive zone, and their best players took care of the success on the other end of things. Is players like Callie Lavalley, that top line for the Avros, stepped up big time. Liberty Amy as well, and Rio Pierre with a huge shorthanded goal in that third game of the championship series, right? So the Avros, their stars were coming through, they were getting great goaltending, but it's just this Eastman Selects team continued to work, continued to pressure the Avros as this series went along, and ended up just having a bit more than this Winnipeg Avros squad. Eastman got the key saves when they needed to as well, from Addison Tomes really locking in that Game 5. This team believed in themselves and came through as champions, and a team that, of course, proved themselves last season to be a championship contender further that status as being, I'd say, the favorites heading into this year's postseason outright, and the best team in Manitoba once again by the regular season statistics, the standings, ends up coming through as this year's champion for a third straight year. The number one team in the league comes away as Manitoba provincial champions at the AAA level. At the female side of things, as for the Avers, though, this is a team that is going to be a championship contender again next season. Eastman as well. Another team I think that'll be in the mix again, the Winnipeg Ice, who they only lose about 3 players this season, so that team is going to be locked and loaded for next year. And yeah, just can't wait to see the teams that are going to challenge Eastman, as they'll be looking to defend their title. But Eastman's not quite thinking about next year just yet. They're still playing this season. In fact, they're playing tonight. In less than an hour, they'll be taking the ice in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan to take on the Saskatoon Stars in this year's West Regionals final series. I think that, this is a year that I think we could very well see Manitoba moving through to play for an ESO Cup for the first time since pre-pandemic, since we've returned to play since the COVID-19 pandemic hit. In all of these series, it's been the Saskatchewan team that has made it through. But this year, I think that Eastman has a really great chance. We're going to get into that series and some of the numbers in just a moment here. We are going to throw it to another commercial, and then I'll be back for the analysis, the breakdown of this series heading into Game 1, and who I think has the edge in this year's West Regional Series down in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, as the road to the ESO Cup continues with the best of the West facing off against each other. You won't want to miss our pick coming up next, Manitoba fans, as I think you may like it, especially for the Eastman Selects fans. Did we just spoil our pick? Well, maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Find out coming up after this commercial break. More MFHL podcast content coming your way.
Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, the Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store.
Welcome back to this edition of the MFHL podcast, MFHL Fans, Season 2, Episode 21, the penultimate episode of this year's MFHL podcast, as we now get into the West Regional Series here in 2025. Great to see the support that Eastman's receiving too from teams throughout the MFHL. I know that Westman ended up I believe making a post wishing them best luck down in Saskatoon, so you gotta love that. I saw the Winnipeg Ice and Central Plains Capitals also commenting on the Eastman Selects Championship post when they released it. Best of luck at the West Regionals as well. So it's great to see that support from the teams throughout the MFHL. Getting respect from the defending champs as well. The Eastman Selects did from the Winnipeg Ice. So, yeah, I think that a lot of Manitobans, I think all Manitobans that are fans of this league and follow this league, really want to see a Manitoba winner pull through, because it's been a while since this has happened. Manitoba hasn't fared so well in the past few West Regional Series against the Saskatchewan winner, and I think for the past 2 seasons, because it was the Winnipeg Ice and the Regina Rebels, Regina was just, I think, the better team by just a few margins. Of course, there was some controversy last year in Game 1 where there was a bad call by the referee. I forget it specifically off the top of my head, but play should have never been whistled down, I believe, and it gave Regina an opportunity where they cashed and sent the game to overtime, and then Regina wins that first game and kind of let the air out of the balloon for the Winnipeg Ice, and they couldn't really recover in that second game as Regina really shored up their game. And yeah, Regina last year, they had game breakers that were just a bit better too than the Winnipeg Ices when we talk about, Striker Zablocki compared to Stephanie Jacob, the best player for the Winnipeg Ice. Zablocki was the best player for the Regina Rebels. And then just in terms of the best players that the Winnipeg Ice had, Regina had that skill to match that and maybe a bit more higher skill. And I mean, Regina ends up winning the national championship too last season. So that loss, as heartbreaking as it was for the Winnipeg Ice, you end up losing to the national champs. That's not so bad. But as for this season, of course, there's going to be a new national champion since the Regina Rebels end up not making it back, losing in the playoffs this season, and it was the Saskatoon Stars who ended up going all the way as the second seed, ended up defeating the top seed Battleford Sharks in 3 games in that best-of-3 final, as the series a bit shorter in the Saskatchewan League. So Saskatoon, a team that is pretty solid this season, 4 players with over 10 goals, but then after that, the goal-scoring talent kind of drops off. This is a team that has, solid goaltending as well by the numbers, both Taryn Sutter and Adriana Bashnik, both with, 2 shutouts this season. I'd assume that Taryn Sutter is going to get the net here. The rookie's been the better goaltender, only 2 losses in the regular season. And in terms of just looking at the playoffs too, this Saskatoon Stars team also saw their depth come through in the playoffs too, right? With rookie Sadie Green leading the way with 9 goals, veterans in Haley Duchesne, Colby Ash having over 6 goals each. For Haley Duchesne, 7 goals, and then for Colby Ash, he ended up having 6 goals. And then in terms of that goaltending, Taryn Sutter having a really nice playoffs for herself with the shutout in there and a .932 save percentage. So yeah, Saskatoon's depth, it came through in the postseason this season. They continue to get good goaltending, but when you take a look at the teams from around the Saskatchewan Female Hockey League this year, it seems like all of these teams, the top teams especially, seem to have 3 or 4 players that had most of the goals, and then there was a drop-off after that. When we take a look at the Eastman Selects, however, this season, taking a look at their statistics in the regular season, right? And then in the postseason, of course, we know that depth came through. But in the regular season, there were 4 players that have over 10 goals, just like the top teams in the Saskatchewan League. But then, the players with under 10 goals, a lot higher output with Maya Grenier and Danielle Hepner, 9 goals each, compared to a team like Saskatoon, where their second best, or I guess their 5th best goal scorer, only ended up having 5 goals in a rookie as well. This is also a Saskatoon team that seems to have a lot of rookie talent, whereas this Eastman Selects team, although they're only graduating 5 players, has that experience, right? And also has, I think, against a lot of teams, a huge goaltending edge when you talk about the season that Addison Tomes and Isabelle Labossiere had, combining for 13 shutouts each, and then in the postseason, combining for 5 shutouts in total. Not 13 shutouts each in the regular season, that would be nuts, but 13 shutouts combined between the 2 goaltenders. So I think on paper, Eastman matches up with Saskatoon quite well. I think that Eastman as well is a bit of a more experienced team this season. And in terms of both teams, taking a look at what they did in the regular season, like Saskatoon's regular season was really good. 18 wins, 8 losses, 4 overtime wins, no OT losses, second best defensive team in the league, and second most goals for in the league. But when taking a look at last year, Regina and the Winnipeg Ice, they were outright the best teams in their leagues, right? And I just take a look at Eastman this year. They were the best team in the MFHL and had, almost 10 more wins than Saskatoon did, 9 more at that. Eastman went out in tournament play this year and beat some of the best teams from around the country that weren't in the MFHL, right? So they proved they could beat talent outside of their league that was at a high level. And Eastman just showed, I think, a lot of perseverance and determination throughout these playoffs, which, in that final series, them ending up being able to come out of that, I think that does them wonders because they're already battle-tested and already know what it's like to have their backs against the wall heading into this series this year that starts tonight. So give me Eastman to take home this series. I think it's going to go... It's been a sweep the past 2 seasons. I'm going to give Eastman a lot of respect here and say they're going to sweep the Saskatoon Stars. And I think from Eastman, it's just going to be that relentless play, that pressure. It's going to be too much for Saskatoon to handle throughout this series. And I think that Eastman is a team that, is going to bring their best to this series against Saskatoon. And Saskatoon may bring their best as well, but I think that Eastman has all the pieces. They're locked and loaded and to face some adversity heading into the series against Saskatoon. And I think that bodes very well for the Manitoba Champions in the Eastman Selects from the MFHL. So give me Eastman to win this series in 2 games in a sweep and moving on to the SO Cup. Their pressure and their defensive play, I think it's just going to be too much for Saskatoon in the end, and Eastman is going to find themselves still playing in Lloydminster, Alberta if it ends up happening. But wouldn't be surprised, too, if the Saskatchewan winner ends up taking it home. I know that kind of seems like I'm kind of playing it safe, but also got to give them respect, too, because, the winner from this league has gone on to the SO Cup to play for an SO Cup, a national championship, ever since we've come back from the COVID-19 pandemic. So, got to give them respect in that regard, but I think this is the year that streak ends and we see a Manitoba representative go on to the SO Cup this season. Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. You can follow, I believe, on Live Barn, as well as I believe they're doing a live stream on Facebook Live. Forget the name exactly. I believe it's Ryan Birnie. Birnie is how you spell that last name. But I believe that's going to be the only way you can watch it for free, as Live Barn is also going to be carrying it, but you do need a subscription. And Game Time TV, our competitor, is actually covering this series as well, but of course you got to pay for that too. So we're going to have all the updates for you in next week's episode in our MFHL Season 2 podcast finale for this 2024-2025 season. It's been a lot of fun this year getting to talk about the best female hockey league in this province. We're going to throw it to a transition here, and then we're going to end off with some final words on this edition of the show. Well, you made it to the end of this edition of the MFHL podcast. Thank you for tuning into this one, our West Regionals preview, as well as, just a recap of the Eastman Selects Championship run. Showed you highlights from that Game 5 in the winner take-all to see who was heading to Saskatchewan. It ended up being the Eastman Selects. They take on the Saskatoon Stars. 8:30 p.m. local time, so coming up in 45 minutes is Eastman trying to make Manitoba proud, becoming the representatives from the West to make it to the SO Cup this year. If you did tune into this edition of the MFHL podcast, thank you for doing so. Leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Help support us if you want to. Feel free not to if you don't want to do that and you just want to watch today's episode, or tonight's episode as I should say. But yeah, if you subscribe, turn on notifications, as well as like the episode, that helps us out here, getting the word out, maybe this into more people's algorithms, shows like this. But it also helps you stay up to date if you subscribe and turn on notifications of when future episodes will be coming out, or when we drop anything that we do produce here in terms of content on our G Show Productions YouTube channel. Want to also give a special thanks to our sponsors in Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Terraco Goaltenders, and Mechanic Fasteners and Tools for sponsoring another edition of the MFHL podcast. Speaking of Mechanic Fasteners and Tools, we are going to be announcing a contest that we're running with them until the end of the MMJHL finals. So that's going to be coming tomorrow, as well as our full MMJHL finals broadcast schedule, as that's what we're going to be busy with mainly from now until the end of our hockey broadcasting season. Finals starts next Wednesday in the MMJHL. Games are going to be $10 to watch per the league's request. So a great thing too about that is 50% of the funds go back to the league. So it's a win-win for everybody, I think. You get to watch the championship series in the MMJHL, and you also get to give back to I think one of the most underrated junior hockey leagues here in the province. So when that doesn't get talked about enough outside of our network in the MMJHL. But as for the MFHL fans, it's been great to cover this league this season. In terms of the notification that you could be getting if you do end up subscribing for next episode, it's going to be coming out next week, episode 22, season 2. Hoping to have head coach of the Eastman Selects and Laird Look on the show, as well as playoff MVP and Adriana Almeida. Going to have a chance to potentially pick her brain to find out, what makes her the goaltender she is. Can't wait to have that conversation with her if it does end up happening. But yeah, we'll have the full official guest list posted for you before the start of next week's episode for season 2, episode 22, and then or until that episode, folks. Until then, I've been your host, Graham the G Show Forsyth. Turns out that it seems that I may need this weekend more than anybody, given that I'm stumbling my words, to finish off this episode. Hoping everyone that tuned into this one and everyone out there has a wonderful weekend themselves. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the great hockey coming your way, MFHL fans. To the Eastman Selects fans who are down in Saskatoon or maybe staying at home, wherever you are, we hope that your team comes through and pulling for the Manitoba Champions to bring home the West Regionals banner and make it through to the SO Cup this year. And for those Eastman fans that are in Saskatoon watching it, we hope that the trip was great down there. You have a great trip home and enjoy the experience this week. Once in a lifetime for many of these players and families, as you're not sure exactly if and when you'll make it back to a point like this. Does Eastman end up making it through to the SO Cup, or it will be the Saskatoon Stars who end up breaking the Eastman Selects hearts? Well, we'll have all of those answers to those questions coming up in next week's episode. Take care, everybody. So long. Thanks for tuning in once again. See ya.